animators, and artists. Life of a Recruiter is a two-part series of shorts made for Titmouse's 2003 5-second day. The shorts, directed by Ellen Su, aim to capture an authentic anime sensibility in design, comedy, and economical animation. We invited Ellen, Grace, and Joey onto our live stream to discuss their work on the project. So Ellen, Grace, and Joey, welcome to the live stream.
Yay, thanks for having us.
Yes.
So let's get introductions out of the way. Please introduce yourselves and the work that you do at Titmouse or on this short. Ellen, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so during the day, I work for Titmouse as their head of artistic recruiting. And in my free time, I'm an independent director and designer. On this project specifically, I had a lot of fun jumping into every little part of the pipeline. But my focuses were mostly character layout and editing.
And Grace, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Hi, I'm Grace. My pronouns are they, them. I'm a 2D character animator, and I am a freelancer right now. I've previously worked at studios like Atomic Cartoons and Netflix Animation, and Ellen needed some extra hands, so I reached out.
Yes. Yeah.
And Joey, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your work?
Oh, sure. My name is Joie Lim. I go she, her. I helped board 2 shorts for Life of Recruiter, one of them being Hire Them All. During the day, I work as an animatic editor on Scavenger and Rain for Titmouse. And outside of Titmouse, I've also had some experience working with clients like CBS, NBA, DoorDash, Wells Fargo, and more as either an animator or a storyboard artist. And that's actually how I met Ellen before working at Titmouse. So, yeah.
So for those of our audience who might not be familiar with Titmouse's 5-second day, can you tell us a little bit about what that project entails?
Yeah, so it was all started by Shannon Pronowski, I believe, our co-founder. She wanted to give a day back to all the Titmouse employees. Instead of working for the studio, we just have one day where we come in and work and make whatever we wanted. No censors, none of the upper leadership watch the shorts beforehand. And then we rent out this huge movie theater in all the cities we have a studio in to screen the shorts. So it's kind of like a Titmouse film festival, if you would. The public can even go check out the screenings if the tickets are not sold out already. But yeah.
And was this your first participation in 5-second day?
Yes. It was. I knew from watching the previous year that it was like a lot of silly things. And so I wanted to do something funny and silly, but I had also just had this like burning passion to do anime. So I thought what more fun, it would be great if I could just like give everybody kind of a look into my life as a recruiter. And take some of the moments that might have been frustrating for me. And, now we can all laugh at them and have fun. Yeah. Originally, we had like 5 stories written out, and I was like, this is too ambitious. So we ended up only finishing 2.
So when we get into some of the details, so what did the inspiration for the Life of a Recruiter shorts come from?
I was looking a lot at Golden Boy. And I've always wanted like Cowboy Bebop, Spy X Family, and all of those things. So those were the forefronts. For me, also, Kaguya-sama Love is War was a recent show I'd watched where I really admired the comedy of that. And yeah.
And I think one of the things that I also wanted to ask is one of the things that you mentioned about the short about like Life Recruiter or both the shorts that were released so far is that they follow a anime sensibility in terms of design, comedy, and economical animation. So can you talk a little bit about like how those touch points inspired the short?
Yeah. A lot of the anime, that I love watching, and I'm sure Joey and Grace can speak to this too, but it's just like breaking the style of the character models, utilizing, abstract graphic backgrounds and different compositing styles. And then everything has this unique timing to the editing in order to push that visual comedy. So for me, I spent a lot of time just studying character designs and character layouts, how they, break model, and making sure that the voice acting, editing, and sound design all push the comedy further. And I think Joey and I were pretty much in sync during the board phase. So before I even sent her any kind of like style guide, I just gave her this kind of idea, and she boarded like the title card I had imagined at the beginning, which, yeah.
Yeah, I was super hyped to be doing something that was like heavily inspired by anime because I grew up on Sailor Moon and Pokemon, and I definitely went through like a weeb phase in middle school and high school. So it's probably wouldn't have pursued a career in animation if I hadn't discovered anime. So I definitely wanted to pull from stuff that I liked watching when I was younger. So stuff like Soul Eater, Inuyasha, Oran, and all those kinds. For like visual comedy, Ella mentioned utilizing different model styles. When I wanted things to be like super dramatic and hyper real, I tried to board things that were a little less action heavy, unless they were like the money shots. So animators weren't like overstretched, and then give more of the action comedy to the chibi style panels where it's easier for animators to let loose and get wacky because the models aren't as hard to animate. And I think Grace can speak more about like animating those as one of the animators.
Yeah, definitely. I was also very much into anime growing up, and even now, obviously. So it's really interesting to finally work on something like this from an animation perspective, because it's a very different pipeline, a very different beast. The approach is really different because the style is so detailed. A single frame will often take you much more time to finish, and you'll need to get a lot more mileage out of that single frame than you would in a different art style. So it's like your priorities are slightly different. Holds and limited animation are used a lot more frequently. And because of that, you're giving extra love to those poses, making them extra appealing or expressive, even if the actual number of drawings in a shot is lower. The goal is really to try and give life to a character with the most economical number of drawings possible, so that you can achieve both the level of design, level of detail in the design, and so that you can save up and really go buck wild in those most exciting moments, like when you're really having those money shots. And I kind of feel like it's saving the sprint for the end of the marathon, kind of a feeling.
So I think one thing that a certain generation of animation students were told is, hey, don't draw anime for these projects because when you get into studios, they're not going to hire you to draw anime. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of your experience, like getting into the industry and what it was like?
Boo, boo, boo those people. Yeah, I really wish I didn't listen to those people when I was in college, because I feel like my career might be in a different place instead of like, for me, I feel like I'm playing catch up. I'm still doing it, so here we are. But like mainstream entertainment, what people love and watch, and like so many people understand the kind of tropes or visual language specific to anime because they love it, and they watch it. And if only America and Hollywood can just get on board with making something genuinely anime, I feel like there's a lot of money to be made.
Definitely. Oh, sorry.
All right, I was going to just ask, Grace. What was your experience with anime style as you were coming into the industry?
Definitely feeling like I needed to divert my attention, if that makes sense, because like the industry, at least in the West, is like, oh, we're not really gonna do that. So I was like, really, it was hard because I was hearing all these voices telling me to like stay away from that, and yet I was still seeing, like, in terms of what media was coming out, like that is really like widespread, really popular, and really versatile too. Like it's not just a genre. It's not just a style. It's a whole like another kind of art. So I think that one of the things I would tell people if they're like up and coming artists, or if you're like hearing people tell you like to stay away from something that you love, and if you're passionate about it, I say go for it. Like lean into your specialty, I guess is the button I'll put on that.
Yeah. I think like for me, when I was like recruiting artists for this project, Grace was one of those portfolios where there wasn't the anime stuff in the reel. Like because you're working professionally in the Western projects, there wasn't, you know, it was professional work and it was solid animation. But yeah, there wasn't those samples. And I think when we hire at Titmouse for projects like that, we really want to see it on the reel already. And so, you know, I encourage people to find a way to put that, whether it's a personal project or a passion project like this that Grace got onto, or in your illustration work that you designed. Like, I'm so happy that we got you jumped on and you were able to join us, because you just like knew the style and kind of just like knocked it out of the park, kind of like effortlessly. So yeah, I'm so glad that worked out.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me, because I've been, like I said, like it's been since day one that I've been like itching to have this sort of style, like be able to work on something like this, and now it's here and now I get to have that. So woohoo!
More anime games.
More anime, yes.
And
Yeah,
Joey,
everything
as a
you-
storyboard artist, sorry, as a storyboard artist,
yeah.
Joey, what was your experience with like this style? Oh, I think you're on mute.
Muted.
Sorry. I was saying probably the same as Grace. This is like the first for me, because in school they also told us the same thing. Like you want to like make yourself like you want to be able to jump onto other projects with different styles. So you can't just draw an anime style. So I definitely was like in school trying to break out of anime style, which kind of seems like, oh, that's like a pity that I did that. Like it was what I liked doing. I should have like kept growing that skill set. So this is really great for me to try an anime or board something in an anime style, because I never got to do that before, because I was constantly trying to like repress that so I could be like something that the industry would want to hire. And that was like, I don't know. Yeah. So it was good that I'm really happy that Ellen brought me on board for this project.
Yeah, I think one of the things too that kind of stands out to me too is when we talk about like anime style, there isn't really like one anime style. Like Dragon Ball doesn't look a whole lot like Pro Mare. It doesn't look like a whole lot like Sailor Moon. There's a wide range of styles within what we call anime. So in terms of like Life of a Recruiter, how do you feel like that draws inspiration from anime and specific series or styles in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of different things. And for anything you make, like it doesn't have to be one thing. You don't have to like, you know, just do Dragon Ball or just do whatever. Your voice as a director is all the things that influence you and what you choose to put in, and put it all together, right? So for me, I'll actually jump into some behind the scenes stuff, but like for me, I knew like in the comedy when I was writing the script, like there's this moment where, you know, because she's frustrated, she's like, fuck, you know, and then I think about this image I see from Spike's Family, this Anya, you know, reaction frame that would be a perfect fit for it. So like even before I got started, I just did a lot of just like reference. And so here we go. Like reference is your best friend. A lot of just like gathering, like what is like biting handkerchief. Like you might ambiently know what that looks like in your head when an anime character bites a handkerchief, whether it's like frustration or whatever. But like find the reference for it and then figure out how you want to utilize that kind of like trope, or like heroic pointing. We had like like the glowing glasses. There's like lots of different ways to do glowing glasses. So just grabbed a bunch of reference and figured out which was the one that we wanted to utilize or, parody for our spot. But yeah, this is the Anya frame that I felt like I saw everywhere. But yeah, and there's model changes. So I see in a lot of animes that change styles, and that's something I wanted to do as well. And for my sanity in building a style guide, I was just breaking it down to like the chibi style, the kind of serious money shot where you have like 3 to 4 tones in coloring, which is insane. And then this comedy style that like the rules change a little bit. The face gets simpler. For example, she has like these trapezoid eyes here. There's like angular, but then when you go to the comedy, it's like just a simple curve. And then yeah, the black and white, it's just like everything falls flat. And so I broke it down into those 4 and kind of like found places to utilize those reactions. And I think like just to get everybody on board, character layout is super, super important. I've met some people in the Japan anime industry where they like showed me some of the boards they get, and they're just like simple stick figures or like just showing you, where things go. And then it's like the layout that makes all the magic happen. So for me, I spent a lot of time in character layouts, and these are like some examples of boards that then go into a character layout phase. And yeah. And we talked a little bit about that, like simplifying animation, right? Which is like, you gotta, in order to be able to have those money shots, you can't be animating everything for everything else. So when we were talking about like mouth and dialogue and lip sync, I wanted it to be super simple. Like you see this version from Cowboy Bebop where none of his head moves and it's just the mouth. So I didn't want like ooh mouth shapes or like complex lip sync. And there was like just a process of like working with our animators to simplify, where there's just too much animation at first, and we kind of walked it back with a couple of rounds of revisions until we get something a little simpler, and then you can do all those shadow shapes and lighting and stuff and not kill yourself. But oh my gosh, yeah, Grace. Here's your shot too, that you're like, at this point I was like, I'm very tired. I've been working like 2 months of overtime and I can't do layout. Please help. And oh yeah, let's see if we can save this. I don't know if you have any thoughts on like what your approach was.
Definitely leaning into what we talked about before with like being really economical with your drawings and making sure that you're spending time where it's needed. So like spending good amount of time making sure that your drawings are really on model, and then utilizing things like just a simple mouth flap, like the art director's chin is the only thing that is indicating that he's talking. Yeah. Because you don't need him to be moving around like crazy for this. The focus is on the zany expressions and the like shock of lightning and stuff like that. That's where you spend way more time. And so you are able to basically time manage in a different way than you would on a different style of production.
Yeah, for sure. And just to like hit the kind of style too of 90s, comp was a huge part of it. So, we added like a blur to the lines, the grain, the chromatic aberration. And here's like, comp makes everything super beautiful. So like, I think to really hit that style, so this was animated by Rainsu, and Drew Boldick did the compositing, which was beautiful. He got that even like subtle glow in the sparkles in the eyes, which was awesome. And yeah, sorry, I kind of just like went into full presentation mode.
No, I mean that's amazing, and I think one of the things too with like 90s anime is that it was produced on cells, which were painted and then photographed on top of the backgrounds.
Yeah.
And like it's possible to recreate that with compositing, but it's a very different process, much more time consuming in a lot of ways too. But it's interesting to like see the attention to detail in the craft and trying to replicate that style.
Yeah, for sure.
I wanted to ask, Joey, how did you approach the visual comedy in Life of a Recruiter?
Yeah, it was definitely taking those, like, thinking about the economy and, like, doing things that are a bit tropey in anime, like those reaction panels where she's, like, stunned or shocked and stuff like that, while also, like, incorporating hyper realistic panels for, like, dramatic effect. Um,
We have a sample.
Oh yeah, we do have a sample. This is one of the boards that Ellen mentioned. We boarded like 5 different scripts, but we only were able to animate 2 with the time we had left. So this is like one of the boards that I did that ended up getting put on the back burner because we didn't have time to animate it. It was called character design, and I could pitch it if we have time. So yeah, there's a little Ellen working at her desk, tuck, 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 working hard and diligently. When ping, she gets an email notification, and what does it say? It says, need one character designer. She's hyped. She's ready. She's like, this is my moment. I'm going to do my job. So she goes away, types on Twitter, hey, all Titmouse is looking for a character designer for an animated comedy show. And she's so proud of herself. She's like, ho, 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 tweet. And then only, bam, she gets hit with like a huge influx of like requests and tweets and emails saying like, hey, I can work. And so that was like the part 1. And then there was part 2, Life of Recruiter Character Design 2, where Ellen and her assistant Judy are working at their desk diligently. Tuck, 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 tuck. When ping, they get an email notification. And what does it say? It says, need a character designer for a special project. This time, though, Ellen's like, da-dun, oh no, we know what happens this time. We're not so naive. She sends Judy to go tweet the thing. They're ready. They're prepared for the big influx. And Judy goes forward, shivering, ready to hit that tweet button. She slowly creeps in and hits the tweet button. Ping, and then bam, more influx of inquiries and people ready for the job hunt. But they were ready. They were prepared. Phew, they made it, or so they thought. Bam, more influx, more inquiries. They shoot it out of the park and they get wiped out. So that was like another one of the boards and like thinking about the comedy and stuff like that. It was really fun doing these. I mean, it also helped that the scripts, like Ellen already had it like had the jokes and all the punchlines ready to go. It was really great working on this.
I love that like she basically like all the like the manga SFX things too.
Oh
like,
yeah.
you were like on top of it.
Yeah, I liked manga too, so I was like, oh, and I'm trying to learn Japanese, so like, hey, mix it all together, practice Japanese while doing boards.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I think one of the things with like a lot of anime parodies is a lot of them will go for like a really kind of like cheap surface level thing. Like, hey, we have a character with spiky hair and he's going to shout for the entire episode. But I felt like this parody came from a place of like love and appreciation.
Yeah. I think it's just like we just wanted like just the love of that like model break, like we're in visual animation, visual comedy. Like let's use the picture, let's use the character to really like push that, and there's just something create like just I love when just like the character turns to stone or like all the eyes go like big and your like mouth drops. And one of my favorites is like the like on the ground where the spotlight comes down on you and you're just like, oh no, what have I done? Total defeat. So yeah.
I think it also comes from sorry. I was just gonna say, I think it also comes from a place of love because this is something we were doing in our free time. This is like a passion project for us. So of course we're putting all our like love and thought into this because it's something that like we wanted to do, where we weren't like being made to do this.
Mm-hmm. Getting to like unleash that love without any sort of like having to hold back or I don't know, just like the passion getting unleashed on it is what made it so fun to work on and so much more like real.
And I think the understanding of the hold frames, right? Like I feel like in this industry we have a lot of notes where like they think anime is like Ghost in the Shell or Ghibli, where every frame is beautifully animated and smooth animation. And it's just like that's not like a TV budget, you know, like that is something that's very hard to obtain and kills all your workers.
You got to get used to animating on 3s and 4s.
Yeah. And so
the jankiness is what we grew up on, so we we love the jankiness.
Yeah,
more jankiness.
I mean, I rewatched Neon Genesis Evangelion on Netflix when they put it up originally, and it's a great series. And there are scenes that are like really like animated on like with a lot of detail, and then there are scenes where they get a lot of mileage out of held frames. And it's not worse for that. I think it's like using that budget effectively.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One thing I also want to mention too, like you were mentioning all these model breaks and very expressive composition where you have like the spotlight coming down or a character looking like utterly defeated. And I think like when you're approaching something that's like, in a very slice of life format, it makes a lot of sense to heighten it, because I mean, otherwise, why animate it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's just like where else are we gonna get like animes about like cooking, you know, or like competitive like sports anime where it's just like it pushes and heightens everything. What's the one with the deer? Or no, I don't know what it's called.
Nichijou?
Maybe she like there's this one that's really popular where she like was drawing yaoi, and
that's
like,
Nichijou. She gets caught by a police officer because they're looking for somebody who's been spreading counterfeit bills, and she has like some embarrassing artwork in her bag, and she doesn't want to give it to the cop, so the cop is super suspicious of her.
Yeah, so she like body slams him, you know.
There's a running gag where the principal is fighting this like wild deer. I love that show so much.
That's incredible.
Yeah. It's just entertaining.
And the animation and like the crazy visual gags is what makes that show so worth watching, you know? If you were just reading it or like reading it as like a written form thing, it wouldn't be nearly as funny, you know? So like the manga having all the gags and then the anime taking those to the big screen really helps heighten it and sell the idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think there used to be this idea that if you like wanted to draw in an anime style, you really couldn't do that stateside, and I think that's changed quite a bit recently. So, Ellen, I wanted to ask, do you have advice for artists who want to create projects of their own in an anime style? Like, what can they learn from this production to take forward?
Yeah, so like one of the challenges, of course, like when you're staffing a project here is kind of like, well, there's not that many people that do it, or maybe there is, but they're just like they've been taught so much to hide it that it's just not available and easy to find. But you know, for me, I did a ton of just like studies of character design sheets. I grabbed like screen caps from episodes. I would scrub through episodes, even during the production, and just like take reference and really draw those characters. So practice from the source material. I think like if we can just give the sense that like, yeah, this is viable, pursue it, and don't discourage people from pursuing it, then we get like actual genuine anime versus like kind of the like Western influenced or like kind of like hybrid. Somebody calls it cowboy anime. I don't know if that's going to catch on, but just like American anime. So yeah, practice. Sakuga? No, is it? Joey,
I think
you
it's
know?
Sakuga, yeah.
Sakuga,
Yeah. Sakuga has like a bunch of just like GIFs and reference for you to pull from. And if you study those, you know, that's gonna like push you so much further. for me, like when I tell people when they're trying to like learn a style, whether that's, you know, Western or anime, I like to use the metaphor, which is like, remember when you had to learn how to write the alphabet? Okay. Think what that process was like. You had to do all these practice sheets and you maybe started tracing out A, B, C, you know, over and over and over again. And then you started writing it in your own hand without that training wheels. And then you can write full sentences on your own, maybe add your own like artistic flair to your handwriting. So like that's the same approach to drawing or adapting to any new style. So like there were parts where I was like drawing it from life and just doing it in my sketchbook. Then I would go on the computer and literally trace the images just so I can like take in like, oh, this is how far the eyes are. This is the proportions of the face. This is how they do X, Y, Z. And then I would just go back and draw from life again and just observing. But there's like this constant back and forth of study for like months before I feel confident to then go at it on my own.
And I think another thing too is like tracing is not a thing that you want to do if you're going to be publishing this. Is like,
No.
hey, this is a thing that I drew by myself. But if it's a study, if you're trying to learn how someone approached a certain type of style, it can be very helpful.
Yeah, and it's like tracing with something like you have to think about it academically and you know break down what your shapes are, what your volumes are, right? Draw over it to be like, these are how the arms connect. This is the proportions of the body under the clothing, you know, things like that. So think critically. If you just trace without, you know, that kind of thinking, I don't know if you'd be able to do that on your own in the future.
Definitely.
Grace, do you have any advice for artists who want to create projects in their own of their own in an anime style?
I was gonna jump in and say to that exact point about tracing and learning and studying and making sure that you're practicing. The reason I started drawing and the way that I learned to draw was in elementary school. I would trace copies of the Witch comic, with Will, Irma, Tarani, and all those girls. Like I wanted to make art that looked that way, and the way that I started was by taking pieces of loose leaf paper and slapping them in the comic book and drawing over them. But then over time, I was able to like study and make my own stuff and not rely on that so much. And like Ellen was saying, like do it purposefully if you're doing those for study, and then obviously don't publish those and claim them as your own if they're someone's already pre-existing work. As for advice for making a project like this, I would say start small. And let the start with the simple nugget first and let that idea expand from there. Because if you're going in trying to make something and you get excited about the idea, you're gonna get into a thing where your scope might be too large. I'm just thinking of the times when I was in like middle school and I wanted to make my own anime, like with MS Paint and stuff. Like I tried so hard and I never finished it. But if you make something as like a study or just a single shot of animation, just to see how far you can take it from start to finish, I would say that would probably be the best way to start. Doing something in the video game industry, it's called a vertical slice, where you take a level from start to finish as complete as you possibly can. And I think that sort of approach is definitely really applicable to animation as well, where you start, okay, I have the idea, I have the script, okay, I'm going to do a quick storyboard. Now I'm going to do the rough animation and see progressively how long and how far you can take it for polish, and in terms of like just challenging yourself to complete something to like an anime scale, really.
And Joey, do you have advice for storyboard artists who are interested in working on projects in an anime style?
Yeah, I would say pull from reference, pull from life, like stuff you like reading and doing. Don't be afraid to do it. I think like Grace said, you can sometimes get in your head like, "Ooh, I want to do this glorious whole episode, 20-minute episode or something," and it's like that's not realistic. You're gonna get so in your head about it that you'll never actually finish it. It's okay to start small. And also, if you're like too afraid to do it, work with other people. I mean, I was at Titmouse and they had 5-second day, and I didn't participate the first time it happened because I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know like if I could even finish by myself, but Ellen reached out to me and I was like, okay, yeah, working in the team would be so much better. It's easier to bounce ideas off of others, and it's great like working with other people because they push you to make better things and you don't want to let them down. So it's like, I think if you're afraid to work alone, if you're afraid that you're not going to be able to finish something, don't be afraid to ask for help from other people and working with other people, because that's how great things come about. Like no TV show is made by one person, it's made by a team. So it's okay to like work with others and collaborate. I think if you're too afraid to like storyboard something on your own, work with a writer, work with a friend, it's okay to like ask for help.
Yeah. I also want to say from a recruiting standpoint, like there are more and more shows in the US that like will say like anime inspired, you know? And if you come upon that kind of job description, what I've seen behind the scenes, it's like usually we might give like a freelance assignment or a test and see how you do. And what we want to see is your anime sensibility. Like when there's a revision that comes in and it's using a little like teardrop, you know, and has like a kind of anime inspired expression. Do you know what that looks like? And can you clean up that drawing so it captures that anime sensibility? And that's something that's hard, actually, that not everybody gets right away. So practice that. I think, you know, as Joey mentioned, studying and practicing from manga, from anime, and just like doing your studies.
One of the questions that we got from the audience, is Twitter a better place to be posting on? This person says that they're currently only using Instagram, but seeing Twitter being referenced makes them wonder if they should be focusing on trying Twitter. Do you recommend Twitter?
Who wants to go first?
We were talking about this before. We mentioned Twitter and how it's burning, but I'll let you guys talk.
I use Twitter. I do use Twitter. I don't, you know, I did really just post on Twitter and Instagram that I was looking for help. So if you don't use Twitter and totally understand that, maybe go on LinkedIn. Sorry, I said I use Twitter and LinkedIn and not Instagram. Sorry. Okay. So make sure you at least have LinkedIn. And utilize that the same way you would, you know, on Twitter or Instagram, which is like posting your socials, your updates, you know, your like, oh, portfolio piece or study, you know, practice, like things like that.
Yeah. I'm a stubborn mule. I don't have a Twitter. I only have Instagram, and it's gonna stay that way. But it's not because like there's anything wrong with Twitter. I just know if I use Twitter, I'm gonna like go down a rabbit hole. I won't be productive. There are a lot of people who do get jobs through Twitter, so there isn't anything wrong with using Twitter. If you don't want to use Twitter, Instagram is also good. That's all I have. I've met people and gotten interviews from Instagram. It's really nice. LinkedIn's really good too for professional work. And I think just networking in general, like Twitter is great, but it's not like if you have Twitter, you're not magically going to get a job. You have to put in the effort to network and socialize with people. And that's how you find the work. It's not Twitter that is like gonna do it. You still have to make an effort. So it doesn't matter if it's Twitter or Instagram or LinkedIn. You just have to network and actually do that stuff.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm the opposite of Joey, where I have Twitter but I don't have Instagram, and I refuse to get an Instagram. The only one I have is for a group chat that my friends abandoned years ago, and like that's the only reason I have an account on there. But like I totally agree. No matter which site you're going to use, you're going to get out of it what you put into it, really. So there are multiple different avenues that people are looking for work or looking for artists to work for them. And you putting in the legwork on any site is going to be what gets you find success and find community and find like opportunities like that.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be like necessarily like followers you're trying to gain, because you look at some of these like Disney storyboard artists and their Instagrams, they have like 100 followers. It's not like you don't have to go viral in order to find jobs. You just have to
Yeah.
meet the right people. So like I wouldn't like stress about like being like Twitter famous or Instagram famous. I think just be yourself and be genuine, and you'll network with the right people. The right people
Exactly.
will find you, hopefully.
Yeah, and being genuine about it too. Like, don't just, if you're viewing it only as networking, it's not going to be as deep of a connection with people. Finding genuine community with people is what is going to be the best way for you to, you know, actually connect with others in the industry and stuff like that.
I'd also say too that like regardless of which platform you're on, who you're following can make a really big difference. Like I follow a lot of storyboard artists and animators on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is really delightful if you follow a lot of artists because you see all their projects all the time. It can be a very different experience if you're following accountants. We got another question from the chat. And I think this one could be answered by all of you. Would you want to introduce some of these different like methods, or I guess the question really is, how similar was the production on this project to a typical production for like TV animation?
Ooh. I've never worked actually on a episodic production, but for me, it was similar to directing commercials. And by that, I mean, everything was not enough time and we were always a little behind. I don't know, just eking for it to get enough work to everybody to keep them moving forward. So now that I talk about that, actually, it's kind of very similar to what I hear my friends say. But I don't know if like Joey or Grace have any additional thoughts.
Yeah, I have worked on episodic projects and stuff, and comparing those to the feature productions that I've worked on, I would definitely say this is closer to a real episode production. It's definitely super abbreviated and super streamlined because of the turnaround, and also just the length of it is so much smaller than, you know, like a 22-minute episode of something. But yeah, like just the general process of, oh, we have a script. Now we're turning the script into a storyboard while we're also trying to finalize our designs. And then we're going to send those to the animators once those are as complete as possible. And then the animators are going to kick those out, and the compositors will take that to the finish line. And then there's editing and stuff. I don't know so much about compositing is where my knowledge ends, and then the editors who like piece everything together and do the audio mixing and things like that, I'm unfamiliar with that, but it felt similar in a way. So I can assume like it's basically a Venn diagram of commercial production and TV production.
Yeah, it's definitely, there are steps to be like, you have to complete this step to get to this step to get to this step. So
Yeah.
it follows it, I think, because I've worked in animatic, I've worked in storyboard animation, and right now I'm working in editing in the post. So I'm getting the composites, I'm putting them together, I'm seeing like the rush jobs, that the pressure that animators have to go through in order to get things to the finish line. It's all the same. It's all like, there's not enough time. There's not enough time. There's not enough people.
Never.
There's never enough time. There's never enough people, and that's
yeah.
That's how you bond with people in the trenches.
Yeah. And that's how there's great problem solving.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and like, oh, who can help? Who can help?
Yeah,
you know. But I think like the major difference really is just like, I feel like the direction to do less animation. And it's like not like do more, smoother, you know, like I think there was one part where it's like, nobody's gonna really look at the art director that's rejecting the profiles, you know. So I was like telling Grace, like, just stepped animation, it doesn't matter, you know, like
just do the keyframes. You don't need to like just make those work. And I was like, awesome, I know that I can finish this shot much sooner now because I don't have an additional fourth character to animate, because there was the chibis in the back too.
Ellen, as a recruiter, I wanted to ask, do you have advice for artists who might be interested in working at a studio like Titmouse?
Yeah, keep making stuff and putting your work out there. You're going to get better with each project. And, you know, just like the shorts, we all face rejection. Just recently, we accepted an intern this spring semester that had been previously rejected 3 times. And like, I remember their portfolio, I saw their growth. And once they're in a very short amount of time, they actually became hired as an apprentice to work on a live production with us. So it's like, you know, I've met a lot of people that I've wanted to work for, maybe like for a year, maybe more, and just never had an opportunity for them. But you can't control that timing. You can only control your own growth as an artist. So regardless, you know, keep putting yourself out there, keep uploading your work. And as the shorts also show, some people only target recruiters to like their networking as their networking, but like you can see it's a group effort, right? Like recruiters will filter out all the candidates based on what we think the director wants to see, but sometimes we're wrong, and sometimes directors will take a chance on somebody that doesn't obviously fit, or they'll take a recommendation from one of their friends that doesn't have a great public portfolio, but because they trust their friend, they end up hiring them. So kind of like network across the board with artists, supervisors, directors, producers, recruiters. And I know Joey has some good wisdom too to add on to that.
Yeah. When I was a student, people always said, "Oh, I got so lucky getting into the animation industry," and I used to hate that. I hated when people said they got really lucky breaking into the industry because luck seems like such a thing you can't control. And I'm like, I need to be able to be in control of everything. So did not like luck. But there's this quote by this guy, Lucius Seneca, and it goes something like, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." And that really helped me take a bit more agency over like job hunting and my career, because you can have all the opportunities in the world come your way, but if you're not prepared when they happen, they're just going to pass you by. And on the flip side, as Ellen said, you could be super prepared, you could be super qualified and ready for the work, but the right opportunity just hasn't come. So you shouldn't beat yourself up if like you haven't been hired yet. It's just all timing and luck. So I myself got really lucky when Ellen saw my portfolio when I was a student and gave me my first opportunity, because it was during the pandemic and I was signed up for a portfolio review with Nathan Love, and I couldn't figure out how to get into the Discord for the portfolio review. So I was a no-show. I didn't show up. I figured, okay, if I don't show my face, they're not going to know that I wasn't supposed to be there. But Ellen evidently still looked at my portfolio, even though I didn't show, and put my name down for an animation role on her project. And nearly all the jobs I've gotten, I can connect back to there. So I would say just, you know, keep working towards your goals. If you know what your goal is, if you don't know where your goal is, or if you're too burnt out to draw anymore, network and try new things, because you never know who you'll meet or what you'll learn about yourself. So even if like there's a role for backgrounds, but you don't want to do backgrounds, you want to do storyboards, you can still try it, and you might learn like, oh, maybe I like backgrounds more, or maybe you'll learn something about the pipeline, or maybe you'll meet someone who knows a job later down the line that needs a storyboard artist and they'll pick you. So it's really good to just keep trying. And when you can, when you've broken into the industry, please pay it forward and lift up your classmate and peers as much as possible, because we're all in the same boat, and it's really important to like look out for one another, because I mean, as we see with the WGA, sometimes the studios aren't looking out for the artists. So look out for each other. And I'm also just superstitious and believe in good karma. So be nice to other people.
And Grace, do you have any advice for people who are interested in being freelance animators?
I think everything that Joey said, words right out of my mouth, super, super applicable. It's a very like parallel experience of being like, oh, like I don't love that it takes luck. What do you mean it takes luck? But once you experience that, it's true. It's a matter of right place, right time. It's a matter of chance, and you the thing that you can control is your own experience and your own preparations and stuff. So yeah, just absolutely seconding everything that Joey said. You put it very beautifully, all of the things of lifting each other up and looking out for each other, and making sure that you are continuing to try, really. So yeah, just I would just be repeating what was already said if I went on about it.
Sorry,
But yeah,
I talked a lot. Sorry.
I want to put my perspective, of, on the being the flip side, which is like, I saw a lot of people that day as well. I met with a lot of people that day that I saw Joey's portfolio, and like they hadn't gotten to that skill set or level that Joey had, and so it's like, yeah, you could get the opportunity to meet somebody at a convention or whatever, and you put your portfolio in front of them, and the skill is just not there yet. So again, you can control that. You can put in the time to improve while you're still searching, for opportunities. And we also had this there's this clip from Lower Decks, Star Trek Lower Decks, of this guy who like wants jobs and he just like couldn't do it. He couldn't get what he wanted, and his friend was like, why don't you try something new? Just start saying yes to opportunities. And it was just like somebody invited him to join a sports team or play a game, and he like would have said no, but then he said yes, and he met somebody else who's like, you suck at this, but I saw some potential in you for this other thing. Want to join my choir? And he said yes, and then it was like, wow, you're great. If you ever need anything, let me know. And like, that's like that organic, like genuine connection that you might have if you join a community, if you take up a new craft, if you take a class, whatever it is, just be open and live your life, and be nice.
Yeah, definitely. Like, the thing that is so tempting to do is just to be nose to the grindstone about it all the time and just be constantly, oh, I don't care if I'm pushing through burnout. Oh, I'm going to just keep like chugging anyways. But the best thing to do a lot of the time is to leave your desk.
Yeah.
And foster those genuine connections with people and live your life so that you can be a more healthy human being and be more well-rounded as a person, so that like those things will then naturally follow, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Networking isn't just like kissing ass to recruiters.
Oh my god, yeah. It's not like when you hear the word networking, it's like, do you just cold email everybody? Like, what do you do? Like, it's an umbrella term for just like,
socializing, making friends, living life,
exactly.
meeting people. Like, even just like on the internet, like being like, if you're too shy to socialize in person, I'm one of those people who's way more active on like Instagram and way more friendly because I'm not shy about like messaging people and commenting. Like, you can make genuine connections like that. You don't have to like, I don't know.
Be shy. If you see something online that you really love, let that person know. Like, and then you might, I don't know, like make a new friend or have an interesting conversation with them, or who knows what will come from that if you just, open yourself to that connection by starting it, really.
Yeah. Internet friends are real friends too.
Yeah. I met one of my friends this last weekend who I haven't met in a full year. And so like, yeah, real.
Yeah.
So we're beginning to run out of time. So I just wanted to ask you, my new internet friends, where can our viewers go to see more of your work?
For me, you can go on my website, ellensue.tv, and if you go to projects, Life of a Recruiter, you can see a full list of like credits and links to everybody's portfolios, if you're interested in digging into those.
Yeah. For my professional work, you can check my website, joielim.com. And if you want like more daily doodles or fun stuff, check out my story on Instagram, not Twitter. Sorry, people who only have Twitter. And I'm currently looking for storyboard work. So if any of you guys know anyone who could use my skill sets, please send them my way. Thank you. Grace.
Yeah, my professional website is Hayes-Dineen.com, no hyphen. And then on Twitter, I'm @_GraceHD. Don't use Instagram, so don't look for me there. If there's somebody with that name, they're an impersonator. I'm the only Grace that you
identity
need.
theft is not a joke, Grace.
Identity theft is not a joke. But yeah, I'm also currently looking for work. And if you know of any opportunities or are interested in working together, feel free to reach out.
Well, Ellen, Grace, Joey, thank you so much for joining us today to discuss your work on Life of a Recruiter. I really appreciate it. And thank you to our audience for joining us for this discussion. If you enjoyed learning about this production and are interested in storyboarding your own animated short, you can download a fully featured 21-day trial on Storyboard Pro from our website. That's toonboom.com. And on May 11th, we'll be interviewing a panel of professional animators on the topic of rough animation, so you won't want to miss it. So be sure to tune in next time. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.